Hi, I wanted to talk about the new SMITE patch notes because they have some very, very interesting changes. I wasn't really particularly interested in the previous patch notes, but these ones actually have something that I think is really cool, multiple aspects, so I want to talk about it. I actually recorded this twice. This is my second attempt. The first one just ended up way too long. I just really want to focus on the very important stuff, so you'll see me scrolling through them first, and we're kind of going through them backwards. I just got to find what I'm looking for here. But anyways, this is the Slipknot patch. It was announced 2 days ago now. My internet was down yesterday, so here we go. The first major change that is coming in this patch that honestly is probably the biggest change that Smite has seen in a very, very, very long time. Maybe potentially since really season 1 is the time to kill change. And this affects everything. Every single god in Smite will receive 40% extra base HP, increase base HP per level by 5%, and then also increases to their base protections, both physical and magical, as well as the increase per level. You can see all the numbers here. It's not really that important to go into detail on the numbers at this point. It's more important to understand the implications. Basically, what Hi-Rez tried to do with these percentages, especially these ones here, was make it so that the increase feels fair between physical and magic protections. Not, even though the numbers are different, it's not suddenly a massive buff to one and a minor buff to the other. They are intended to end up around the same because they just scale differently. They have different base values and all that, so the percentages needed to be different. And that's what they try to work around here. So I think this is huge because I think time to kill in Smite specifically is something that Hi-Rez states has gotten shorter over time, and that I believe has a lot of value. I think there are a lot of games out there that have very short time to kill. Pretty much, not all shooters, but the vast majority of the shooter genre focuses on relatively short time to kill, and even some of the MOBAs that are currently still played have relatively short time to kill. And I think having a scenario where that's not the case can stand out in a positive way. I noticed this in particular when playing Predecessor and Overprime, which are both conceptually similar, but relatively different in time to kill, with Predecessor being a fair bit slower, that I personally liked a longer time to kill more, because there's just more room to try different combos, work with your teammates. There's also more room for mistakes, I think, because you can make one mistake but still win the fight. So overall, I just enjoy that pace more. That's not going to be the case for everyone, and I know a lot of people enjoy the one-shot burst potential that comes from just having relatively short time to kill, but that's not for me, so I think this is a very interesting and positive change in my eyes. Now, obviously, this comes with a ton of other implications, effects on healing, on percentage health damage, on things that don't deal percentage health damage, on damage values of various guards, on burst potential of various guards, and value of various guards, like basic attackers, for example, going up in value through this typically. So this is a very, very sweeping change. They didn't call this patch the mid-season patch, they call it the Slipknot patch. I'm not even sure if there's going to be a patch next month with other major changes that's going to be the mid-season patch, because this one is technically coming out next month. But either way, I like where this is going. Now, if you look at the stats here, you can see that the minimum increase on level 1 is 145 HP, and the maximum increase, if you're really tanky, is 205 HP. At level 20, it's 202 to up to 304. The bigger impact here will arguably come on level 1, because that's easily 2 extra hits in most scenarios, if not more, depending. And that is massively increased survivability for early trades, early ganks, farming, whatnot. Now, obviously, this is not a change that happens in a bubble. There's a very, very long explanation here, but we have to scroll up in the patch notes a little bit as well, because there's something that goes hand in hand with that, which begins somewhere around here. We'll get to this part, but let's just find it again. Jesus, there's so much interesting stuff in these patch notes. There we go. I think it's under here. No, but this is kind of where it begins. The obelisks getting completely changed. which I think is very interesting, very fun, but that's not directly tied to the health, but rather it starts around here. So lane minions get different health scalings, different protections. It goes for the archers, brutes to some degree as well, swordsmen, and all of the buff camps get overhauled. Typically, especially the big buff camp gets beefier, and then all the XP values get adjusted. So everything is gonna feel different in terms of clearing, in terms of survivability. Everything I think is gonna be decently slowed down, and I'm gonna. There we go. I was going to search for this with Control F, but we have it right here. And along with that, towers and phoenixes are also seeing a similar thing where the damage against both guards and minions is increased by a certain percentage, and then their attacks get 30% penetration, so it's harder to dive them in that regard. And they also get more health. So your extra health will not allow you to tower dive much more, because this is also happening, and it's happening in towers, the Phoenix, Titan, Gold Fury, Primal Fury, Oni Fury, Pyromancer, and Fire Giant all see some degree of buffs. Not all the same level, but yeah, you get the idea. And they, for some reason, posted this twice. So that's happening. Along with that, basically all hybrid items are getting a bunch of defensive nerfs. So you're looking at Berserker's Shield, Shifter's Shield, Glad Shield, Void Shield, Runic Shield, and Seelic Head Shield. Frostbound Hammer, Runeforged Hammer, Sledge, Blackthorn Hammer, and then Celestial Legion, Lotus Crown, that kind of stuff as well. The hammers have their power decreased, whereas the other ones typically have their defense decreased. Jade Amp as well, Tyrannical Blade, Void Stone, Stone of File. Now we're looking at health being increased here, and Stone of Binding. So yeah, Bruisers take some hits, which I guess goes hand in hand with these buffs as well, where I think Bruisers could otherwise also be the ones benefiting the most. And then we have items with pen, the tier 2, specifically Spell Focus and Warrior's Bane, get 5% pen each. So, heavy shifts that I really like. I think these make the game more interesting in a variety of ways. And then they're also making the Conquest map specifically more interesting, which we'll have to scroll up a little bit for. To keep this short, because this is kind of messy in how it's posted. Basically, the obelisk is getting reworked. Now, what you have to sacrifice with the obelisk is certain, offerings that you get in the mist. The mist spawns around the Conquest map after 6 minutes. I think it would spawn around the same time as the obelisk, I'm assuming. And in this mist, you are stealthed. So this is a PvP element as well. So this is like a brush in League of Legends, for example. And in this mist, you will also find these lost knights who are in the mist areas, essentially. And those drop the reward for the obelisk, and that can only be picked up by the team that scores the last hit to trigger the drop. And when activating this obelisk, what you now get, along with a bunch of other changes again, is the empowered trebuchet. I love it, the trebuchet. It's just a wonderful meme right there. It has an aura that provides 15 magical and physical protection within 30 units. But, much more important, this spawns near Phoenix and it gets only activated once an allied guard walks near it. So you basically have to push it kind of like a payload. It keeps walking after that, though, and it will be walking if there's allied minions around it. So it's not like you have to push it all the way. Just activate it once. But you can kind of keep it there for a while as well, so you don't want to push it immediately, and you kind of want to force the enemy to react to it. It'll spawn in the lane that has the most structures intact and the least damage taken. So it's not random. And it'll then push down the lane and launch flaming boulders at enemy structures and minions from long range outside of the tower aggro. So this has a 100 feet or unit maximum range and a 30 unit minimum range. But every time it launches a projectile, it consumes 5% of its own HP. So it doesn't have infinite shots. Ideally, you want to push it with a wave so that you can clear out the enemy wave as quickly as possible, lose as few shots as possible to that, so your trebuchet keeps a lot of HP, and then push it into tower so that it can just, or like towards the tower, so it can just use all of its health onto the tower. Base stats can be seen here, 1,700 base health, 50 physical protection, 10 magical protection, and 300 physical power, though I'm not entirely sure how that'll scale directly in terms of structural damage. And then it scales up 300 health every 3 minutes of the game time. So this basically forces the enemy to react to that lane being pushed immediately. That's gonna be your priority objective the moment it's on the map. It's kind of like the Siege Juggernaut, for example, only that it's a lot more impactful in my opinion, because it really requires all the attention at that point, which could also mean that an enemy team could use this to cause a distraction and push with one person while the rest is somewhere else. But the trebuchet will also stop as long as there is an enemy in its radius. So you can technically hold it off with one person. I imagine you could even have like a Loki just running around it in stealth and it would still stop it. So you could have certain tactics to hold this off as well. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting mechanic that really shakes up Conquest as well. So I do think that's very interesting. And along with that, they're also making very big jungle changes to the first wave specifically. So the Harpies are now delayed in spawn. They spawn at 30 seconds now. You don't really have to care about them at the start of the game. All the buff camps are your focus now because they all spawn at 10 seconds of the game. And all the buff camps no longer spawn a big buff holder on the first wave, instead spawning 3 minis on the initial spawn, with the center one of them dropping the buff. This one gives like a little bit more XP here and has 200 extra health, but it's a mini. It's not like the big ones. And the goal here is basically that every role can hit level 2 after the first wave. Now, I don't know what this means for a lot of other things. I don't know what this means for shared camps. I don't know what this means for invading, because honestly, it sounds like invading would be easier through that again. It sounds like it's going to make the jungle starts a little bit more forced and stagnant, because it kind of gives me the impression that they want just everyone to start at their buff camp, which obviously means that the jungler has a little bit more freedom on where he goes afterwards, but it also kind of means that the jungler cannot do completely unconventional starts, and especially duo will have very stale starts, I'm assuming. But we'll have to see if that's how it actually plays out, or if everyone suddenly starts invading again and taking the debuff, because now the buff camp itself is easier to clear. And then after the first rotation, the camp will have a stronger buff holder as usual. Important in that context as well is that here, where is it? The back Harpy XP camp on the Gold Fury side has been removed, and that is now the support buff camp. So yeah, that's been changed in placement. This is now 1 support buff Elder Harpy and 2 support buff Harpies. Bit weird for the jungler, I guess, because it's like an XP camp for them going away that they could farm before. But it was kind of weird anyways in how the map was laid out in its last form. So I hope that this will make it a little bit better. And yeah, that's going to be the new support buff and the new jungle in many, many ways. So again, very interesting shift that I think will make the games quite spicy for a while at least. And on the topic of spicy, where is it? We also have the new adventure. SMITE Adventure is coming back, but it's not really like an adventure, but rather an event this time, which is now SMITE Night, which is happening 1 day per week. You can read the specific rules here, but basically it's an event where you can do quests that you can only do on Saturday. It's 24 hours. There's leaderboards. I don't know how they exactly will work. It's not really explained yet, but yeah, you can get some special rewards for participating and all of that stuff. Yada, yada, yada. A lot of stuff surrounding it. It's definitely something that gives people a lot of incentive to play on Saturday specifically, if you're so inclined. But the really important bit of it is that the first event is Classic Conquest. And when they mean classic, they mean classic. It is the map from before Season 1. I have never had the chance to actually play this map. This is the beta map, and I'm very excited for that one. You will be able to play it in this event, and after the event, not before, but after the event, it will also be unlocked in custom, apparently, so you can play it that way. But yeah, this sounds super cool to me. you'll be able to see a lot of the original art as well, the original character art and all of that stuff in its 2012 glory, so that's gonna be fun. I don't know what that means for the guards you're playing, but yeah, it should definitely look hilarious if you can put a new guard onto this very old map as well. Well, because the style has really changed since then. And yeah, they even changed, like, they even gave us like the old fire giant and stuff like that. And they gave us all of the old buffs. So yeah, the buffs are not even symmetrical, so that like they specifically say like your opponents in lane will have access to different buffs than you do. This map used to be played 2-1-2, partially because of that. And until Arachne came around, who just kind of ruined that because she was so good at jungling. But yeah, the buffs that you get here are all completely different. Like if you look at them, they're basically like portions of what we have in the buffs now. Like for example, blue buff only provides MP5, and then there's a gray buff, which looks like a happy camp here, that provides you with CDR. So yeah, it's very different. It's also very different times. It should definitely be fun to check this map out and just see how it feels now compared to back then, if you had the chance to play it back then, or if you're like me and you never actually had the chance to play it, then it's gonna be a fun first time experience with the broccoli trees. You can see them right here. A blast from the past. And yeah, it's gonna be time limited, but I don't know if they're gonna take it out of custom. They said it's gonna be in custom after the initial event, but I'm not sure if it's gonna stay in there forever or how that works asset wise. But I kind of hope it sticks around. It would be hilarious to like have people have regular tournament or something on that. So yeah, that's gonna be the event, and then here's a bunch of rewards like loading screen skin, level up effect, all that type of stuff. And in between there are other events, right? So there was Classic Conquest first, but then week 2 is All Out Slash, week 3 is Classic Conquest again, and then week 4 is 5v5 season 9 Conquest. So you have to queue with a full party. So you actually, if you want to get all of the achievements, you want to be high on that leaderboard, you have to play with some friends as well. You can't just solo everything. So yeah, that is something that I'm really looking forward to. So those are the big things of this patch that I really wanted to talk about because I'm really excited about them. There's other stuff here. There's Slipknot skins. Unfortunately, 9 skins for the same 3 guards, which is Poseidon, Radiant, and Shark. And there's some other new skins. So retro chest, where you can basically get so the Slipknot skins are actually just in a chest, and it's just a random roll, and then after 3 skins, the next one you can choose which skin you get. Whereas there is also a battle pass, and the battle pass actually gives you a chest that allows you to pick skins from previous battle passes that were not collaborations. Here it is, the blast from the past. So you can get the Trickster Loki skin from the battle pass, and which is like the old SMITE rival skin or something. I don't even know from what it was, but like, yeah. And then you can get skins from all of these battle passes here, all of the old ones, which is pretty nice if you missed one of them or you just want a specific skin, because you can just select it by opening the chest. So I think that's pretty cool. It's a really nice catch-up mechanic in a way there, if you're missing particular skins because you weren't around for them, or you didn't buy the battle pass at the time or didn't unlock them. That is most of it. Then down here, we do have some guard changes. I am not going to go through all of them because it's not really much of a point in me reading them out when I can't really tell you anything about them because I haven't played the game enough as of late. But you can see Loki gets some audio adjustments, the cat gets some buffs for jungling, Thor gets some CC and damage buffs, Shivalanka gets some damage buffs, Ram gets some mana cost decreases, Naja gets some defensive buffs of multiple kinds primarily, Hercules gets a cooldown reduction to Earthbreaker, Terra gets some cooldown reduction, mana cost reduction, Sylvanas gets some cooldown reduction from the passive, Baba Yaga gets Baba's Brew cooldown reduced, Pele gets Pyroclast damage increased, Iset gets her damage, her protection reduction, or protection debuff reduced, so it's weaker. Gilgamesh gets a bunch of nerfs, so scaling and movement speed as usual, like to the hero's advanced movement speed. Arthur gets some nerfs as well to various things really. Cleaner gets some damage and cooldown nerfs for ultimate. And Zeus gets some cooldown nerfs as well, like attack speed, movement speed. Just to give you a very quick rundown. But yeah, if you want to see them in more detail, then have a read through them. Overall, interesting patch. I'm excited. I want to see what happens We'll see how everything feels now, because everything's gonna be different. And I really don't know if this is gonna be like, if this is the mid-season patch, or if there's actually gonna be another mid-season patch after that's just gonna make everything like different again after they just made it different. But we'll find out. For now, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell, and I hope to see you for the next one soon. SLOTH out.